If you are trying to get back with your ex, you're probably watching a lot of content, reading a lot of articles on how to get back with your ex. You've heard about no contact, radio silence, reverse psychology, mirror technique. But I'm pretty sure that you're missing a very important aspect of relationship recovery, and to some extent on how to create a sustainable and strong relationship with your spouse. I explain everything after the jingle.
igetmyexback.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
But before I start, I want to help you. I'm creating a lot of things, a lot of tools, sharing a lot of tools. If you want to get back with your ex, if you want to feel less stuck in your situation, one way to feel less stuck and to know whether you have a chance of you getting back with your ex is to take the quiz, which is a free assessment that you can take. It takes about 3 minutes to complete, and it gives you a score telling you how likely you are to get back with your ex. If you want to have a chat with me, you're not sure about the situation, you took the quiz, but you're not necessarily sure what should be the next step, don't hesitate to contact me on WhatsApp or book a call with me. I'll be more than happy to guide you and tell you whether you should give up or whether it's worth fighting and last. I also created a Telegram channel where I share a lot of tips that I can't share on YouTube. I usually share things, insights, things that I'm reading, access to some private content on a daily basis there. It's totally free. Have a look in the description. There's a link. And now if you want to help me, just need to like the button, click on the like button. If you like this video, it does help me a lot in terms of referencing. Now we are more than 5,000 subscribers and it's amazing. I want to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So you can help me if you subscribe, if you like, and if you comment on the video. So let's get to it. The thing that we all forget when we are dating someone, when we are trying to get back with an ex, and I've been guilty of this for many years, given my studies and my background, I realized quickly enough that we all work on different operating system. It sounds very much a common sense, but the problem is that we tend to feel like if I was in his shoes, if I was in her shoes, I wouldn't say this, I wouldn't do that. I could run away from our relationship. I would never do that to someone. And when we use that sort of visualization, we are missing the whole point. It's not about the perspective of the situation, is how they operate, how their mind works. Okay, and that's why it is so hard to create a sustainable relationship. And so fascinating. As a relationship counselor, I find it fascinating because by definition, we are unique. And that uniqueness creates a lot of friction when it comes to relationship because we see things fundamentally in a different way. And I'm going to use the example of fear and anxiety. All of these things, how we are shaped, is mostly coming from different experiences, but mostly from childhood, of course. Therapy is all about discovering and unpeeling the onion, looking at what happened in the childhood that sort of defined the person you are today. And I'm not talking about trauma, I'm not talking about necessarily PTSD, but things that shape the person we are now. And those things are unconscious. We're not aware of those. We're not aware of those mechanisms. We're not aware of thinking in that way. And that's why when we try to use our own ways of thinking and put them in our spouse's mind, it doesn't work. It's not the same reality. So most of our fears take their source in childhood. And as I said, I'm not talking necessarily about PTSD and trauma. I used to be a dismissive avoidant, and I've had an amazing childhood with loving parents. It's just that I developed a way of self-soothing that defined me as, or created me as a dismissive avoidant when I grew up. And it's something we all share. The fear, for example, is very interesting because, like, for example, the fear of spider. No kids, if you put a spider in front of a kid of 3 years old, of 2 years old, who's seeing that spider for the first time, he won't be scared of that spider. We are being taught that spiders are scary, are dangerous. Same with mouse, same with It's not an instinct. We are being taught. And usually, if you think about if you have any phobia or anything, it's really about something that you've been taught. If you're scared of flying, for example, perhaps you had a traumatic experience flying, or perhaps your parents are really scared of flying and they transmitted this fear to you. For example, like money, the definition of money. Maybe your parents never had like this proper discussion of, money is bad, money is good, you need to make money to, if you don't make money, you're a loser. Sometimes it's really unconscious. You see your parents, working really hard to make some money, and for you money is like really, really important, and every penny counts. Perhaps your parents had an easy life and they spent a lot of money, and for you money is easy. It's a tool too. So those things really shape the way you see things, right? And it's very unconscious. The fear in the relationship, because it's all about fear. And when I help my clients, when I work with my clients, and that's probably the case for you, the reason your ex broke up with you is not a lack of compatibility. I don't work with people who've been together for a month or two. It doesn't work like that. That's why I also do this quiz, have this quiz, is to ensure that I can help you. I'm talking about a relationship where you had something special. But at some stage, there's a fear that was either dormant or resurfaced, or that life or any sort of events outside of the couple made resurface. So the fear of commitment, the fear of abandonment, the fear of being judged, the fear of being rejected, the fear of lack of control, the fear of loss. There's so many fears. We all have so many fears. So sometimes we try our best to put our fear on the side, and we sort of swallow our pride, or we don't necessarily communicate those things, and it sort of bottle up to a point where we explode. And that happened to me in my previous relationship, where I would keep things to myself, where I would say yes when I felt deeply no. And just because I tend to be a people pleaser, and perhaps you're a people pleaser and you recognize yourself in terms of, you say yes because you don't want to, make any harm, you want to please, you want people to like you, but at the end of the day, at some stage you feel like it's too far from where I want to be. And this was the fear of, perhaps disappointing people, right? So have a look, and we'll discuss about what you should be doing and how you should be using this information to get back with your ex. It's the importance of recognizing fear. It's easy to either be driven by fear, so becoming anxious, or reject the fear, so suppressing emotions. So when we look at this fear from an attachment point of view, an anxious would be driven by that fear, like, I know he's going to leave me, he's going to abandon me, he's going to find someone else because I'm not good enough. And you can also reject the fear. People like me, like dismissive of it, like, I'm okay, it's fine, we had that fight, she's not arguing anymore, so she must have forgotten about what I did or what I said. So it's very important for you to tune in and recognize those fears. Accept those fears. It's not about letting them decide what you should be doing, or rejecting or denying that they exist. Is to really tune in and understand those things. So mindfulness, hypnotherapy are great ways for you to really slow down the thinking process and bring that awareness. Therapy is also obviously a practice that helps you recognize those fears, recognize the unconscious part of those thinking process. What were you scared of in that relationship? And what prevented you from making it work? To get back with your ex, something needs to change. And the problem is that thing, perhaps you know already what needs to change, but for some reason you didn't manage to do it. You didn't manage to be present. You didn't manage to express your emotion. You didn't manage to be less clingy. And the reason your ex broke up with you is because you failed to address this. And the reason you failed to address this is not because of a lack of planning, a lot of motivation. It's just because there's something preventing you from this. There's fear preventing you from acting, from doing things, from expressing things, from communicating with your spouse. If you want to have a look, if you want to have a chat with me about this, about how we can sort of peel the onion and really understand what was the sort of blocker. Sometimes, you have a discussion with a therapist and it's clear there's something, you didn't want to see that thing. You didn't want to listen. You didn't connect the dots. That's what we do with therapy. In therapy, we connect the dots. and then you get a bigger picture of what needs to be done. Does it mean that once you have the picture, it's all solved? No, because it's also a skill. Understanding your unconscious mind, understanding those protective mechanisms becomes a skill that you need to really train. However, if you're not sure, if you are unclear about what you need to do, get in touch with a therapist, get in touch with myself, get in touch with Elizabeth, who works with me, and will be more than happy to help you. So what about now? After, I want to be practical, as you know. I like to do practical things. Theory is great, practicality is even better. After a breakup, most people experience a form of separation anxiety. That's perhaps how you feel right now. You feel you've been in a couple for most of the past years, and it's very hard to define who you are now as a person, not a couple. And so this situation forces the desire to see the other person, to connect. You're missing that person. And we are chasing what we don't have. The rejection pushes us to chase what we lost. And so we push and we push. We are clingy, even more clingy. We want to connect and they don't want to connect. We send a message, they don't reply. We send another email, they don't reply. We show up at their workplace and they reject us even more because we are failing to address what was really going on. The push-pull. You push, they pull away. And so this desire comes from that automatic limbic in the brain, limbic response to stress. There's nothing wrong with you. It's really, another way to see it is like the fight or flight. Because you have this fear, because you have those strong emotions, losing something so dear in your heart, that you want to save it. And one way to save it is to be connect, is to chase, is to try to explain that you can change. Try to explain that, but this is different. It will be different. That's not how it works. The problem is that your primitive brain, the one that is driven by fear, is really bad in relationship. Really, really sucks in relationship. If you want to connect, if you want to get back with your ex, stop acting like a monkey, right? Stop thinking with your primitive brain. And don't get me wrong, we all have that primitive brain. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that those emotions, those fears that are unconscious, sometimes take the control. And when they take control, the chances of you getting back with the ex, regardless of the quiz, the score of the quiz that you got, you're doomed. You're never going to get back together. So the worst is by being clingy, you make things even harder. And if you have seen some of my videos already, you know that being clingy, being needy is one of the worst things you could be doing if you want to get back with your ex. I've made so many mistakes. It's something that I hear almost every single day when people call me or WhatsApp me and they explain me the story after the breakup and they've been clingy and they didn't go no contact and they sort of spam their ex, they sort of stalked them, went to their workplace or confronted them. And very often they said, I should have watched your videos or I should have talked to you before because I really acted out of an impulse. And now that I've done it and it didn't work, it makes things worse, I regret. So really, hopefully you're watching this video at the right time because acting out of an impulse is the worst thing you could do. Your ex right now, she or he wants space. You have to give that space to them. Regardless whether they are seeing the story and they have the wrong piece of information, they are making the decision on things that they don't understand, that's not the point right now to explain things, to discuss, to confront them. Respect their needs. They have the needs for space. Right now, it's going to be temporary. Respect this. If you don't, you make things worse. The case when you did nothing wrong. When you did nothing wrong, i.e. you didn't cheat, you didn't disrespected them, it's usually 50-50 in terms of responsibility. Even if your ex decided to end the relationship and you might be thinking it's all my fault. No, it may be 80% my fault and 20% my fault. It's always a dynamic. It's always a lack of communication. It probably, maybe it doesn't matter actually where it started, but it was a dynamic, a sort of ping pong thing for a couple of months that created that sort of decision to end things with you. So usually 95% of the time there's something unconscious that triggered that breakup. Potentially activated or deactivated their attachment if they are avoidant. Buying a house, for example, I feel like, whoa, that's commitment, I'm not ready. And when you approach this type of conversation and you don't use effective communication with them, they freak out and they leave. Asking for space to an anxious. Maybe you're kind of secure, avoidant, and you don't really like, talking or being with your ex 24/7. It's sort of really hard for you. And so your ex thought like, that's not what I want, and I leave you for that. There's so many unknown psychological triggers that can be unknown to you and also unknown to them because they are unconscious. And it's really about how can you understand those different triggers. If you don't know them, regardless of the message you send, because I've seen stuff online where you sort of use reverse psychology and send them something and then they react. That's not the point. You're missing the whole picture. You're missing the fact that in order for you to get back with your ex, you need to tune and understand their fears and understand your fears and overcome those fears. And being able to, because what I do is not for teenagers who just want to get back with the ex because they had a crush with their classmate, okay? What I'm doing, my job as a relationship therapist is to really help people to find that security, to have that honest communication with their partner, to be in a position where you challenge your belief system, you understand where your ex is coming from without any judgment, without any anger. And I know sometimes, very often, we're angry, we just want to, that's not about this. It's about tuning in, understanding your partner and making the decision based on this. Because perhaps you're going to decide, or you're going to realize that you're not made to be together because you have different values, you see the life in a different way. This is a time for you to reflect with a counselor. So I talked about working with me, but it could be with anyone else. I don't care if it's me or, but sometimes when we feel stuck, and I felt this way before I studied psychology, I felt this way like, there's something wrong. I know there's something wrong. It's not that I'm unhappy, it's not that I'm depressed, it's not that I'm anxious, but I feel that I can't really be my own full potential. I can't really express my full potential. There's something preventing me from doing that. And so when I started to, on that journey of self-discovery, that was just amazing. So with a counselor, with a therapist, with myself, with anyone, it's really about having a plan to get them back or to move on, because sometimes I have clients, they don't want to get back with their ex, they just want to move on, they want to forget. They want to really learn how to improve their self-love. With a counselor, if it's a relationship counselor, also understanding your ex's needs and psychology. It's very important, because if you don't understand them, how can you communicate with them in the right way? And that's why I think I'm very cautious about the one size fits all approach when you look at tips online on how to communicate with your partner, because it really depends on how they react on their psychological profile. With the community, I know sometimes post-breakup is a lonely process. So try to find people who are positive, not necessarily friends or friends of friends, perhaps family. Find a confidant, find someone who would listen to you without being judged. Find a place where I'm building a community of people who are facing the same challenge, and where you would share tips, where you share stories to help each other in a very caring, non-judging and confidential way. You have also some details in the description. I hope it makes sense. I hope you've learned something new. If you've learned something new today, if you see things differently now that you've seen this video, don't hesitate to click on the like button. It does help me a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer.